Hi there. Thanks so much for joining me. What I'm going to talk about today is relationships education, and I'm specifically talking about relationships education in school. Now, recently I had a conversation with a viewer, and it was actually a brilliant conversation. And my favourite thing, I think, about the whole conversation, and I really hope this person doesn't mind me saying this, but my favourite thing was when this person talked with such joy about spending time with the children. It was a lovely thing to see, because I encounter a lot of parents who don't feel that way about their children. They say things like, "Oh, what am I going to do for 6 weeks thinking about the summer holidays?" They really don't enjoy spending time with their children. So that was a glorious thing to see that with a parent. Now, actually, the main topic of our conversation was relationships education in school. So that's why I'm mentioning all that. And this is an important thing, okay, for lots of reasons. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's so important about this. And relationships education is essentially the grooming of children. It's desensitizing them to a whole lot of issues that are really not child friendly. They're really for much older teens, and mature teens at that, and adults. They're not really for children. And there are two aspects of this. And one is that actually that kind of education can damage a child's future relationships, can make it harder for a child to form intimate relationships, to be able to have a monogamous marriage, and then to have children of their own. And that obviously is hard on that individual. Now, we live in a society that has really diminished the importance of monogamy. But that doesn't mean that it's not important. And I want to explain something about a much wider picture. I listened to an interview recently with an Indian man. I'm going to guess, because of the way he spoke, that he was living probably in the States, and he'd been living there for a while, because he had a kind of mixed accent. But he was Indian. His name is Feller Bose. And he's written a book about sex and sexuality. I haven't read the book. I only heard the interview. And I only really want to mention one thing that he said. So, during the peak of the British Empire, the Indians, the people of India, were very confused and surprised at the fact that their country had been conquered by such a tiny little nation as Britain. And there was some desire to investigate how this had happened. So a group of Indian researchers took it upon themselves to spend some time looking at the nature of the British character versus the nature of the Indian character. And this is the conclusion they came to. The reason Britain was able to conquer India, Britain, a tiny little nation, a tiny little no-mark island, and on the other side of the world from India, was able to go and conquer massive India in terms of numbers of people and in terms of size of land. the single reason that the British were able to do that was one word: monogamy. Now, there have been other studies that have shown links between monogamy, strong sexual morality, and wisdom, competence, and just generally being capable of doing things. And let's think about now what I said a moment ago was Britain has gone quite far down the line of undermining sexual ethics, moralities, monogamy. And also Britain doesn't do anything. We all know that Britain was very capable at the time of the Industrial Revolution. But now our expectation is when we buy something, it's not going to be made in Britain. It's going to be perhaps German, perhaps Swedish, but actually much more likely American, and even more likely Chinese. And there are jokes now about how incompetent we are. We make jokes at ourselves for being competent. Our expectation of ourselves in abilities to do anything is absolutely rock bottom. There is no way modern day Britain could conquer modern day India. It's just not thinkable for so many reasons. It's just an unbelievable nonsense that somebody might suggest that. And yet, without a bullet being fired, as far as I know, Britain was able to conquer India. And not just India, plenty of other places. So, in terms of relationships, and I've talked a bit about this before, it's so important that you educate your child on the importance of fidelity, monogamy, strong morality in terms of relationships, and that their understanding of how relationships works does not come from their schools, from the state, from other children. And I would actually go further and say you should explicitly tell your child, if you've got anything that you want to talk about in terms of sex, talk to me about it. Believe it or not, I know all there is to know. I'm not saying that that's necessarily true, because there's a lot of quite dark stuff in that area. But you understand the point I'm making. Don't make it a taboo subject in your home, but make sure that your morality is infused there into that, into the whole area of relationships. That your morality is the one that you are imposing on your child, and not an external morality. Because not only will that affect your child's future in terms of stable relationships, future children, so that's your grandchildren, but it also, believe it or not, will affect the nation as a whole. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Please come back next time, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you.